Hello everyone, welcome back to Sydney and Starlet, and if you're new around here, welcome! Enjoy the videos. So today, me and Sydney are going to be reading Disney's 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure. So, let's begin. Sydney, where's Cruella?
Yes.
Yeah, there she is.
My kids.
101 Dalmatians, Patch's Lost Adventure. Pongo and Perdita shared a small London home with a rather large family and considered of their pets Roger and Anita, Ratcliffe, Nanny, the housekeeper, and 99 Dalmatian puppies. The puppies liked being part of a big family, but someone had to be last, and that someone was usually Patch. This happened one night when Roger called. Is everybody ready for the show? All the puppies raced into the living room to watch the Thunderbolt Adventure Hour. Little Patch was last. He squeezed in just in time to hear, starring Thunderbolt, the one-of-a-kind wonder dog, and his trusty sidekick, Little Lightning. In this episode, little wholesome Tommy was tied to the smokestack of a runaway train. Hold on, Tommy. Thunderbolt's coming, Patch shouted. He leaped closer to the TV to watch Thunderbolt save the day. Patch wished he could be a one-of-a-kind hero, just like Thunderbolt. After the show, it was time for bed, but Patch stayed in the room long enough to hear the announcement talk about auditions for the Thunderbolt show. If you think your pooch has what it takes, just follow a K9 Crunchy's truck down to tomorrow's auditions. Patch couldn't believe his luck. Dad, I've just got to see Thunderbolt tomorrow, he shouted. But tomorrow is moving day, Pongo reminded his son. The whole family was moving to the country. Nanny put a new dog tag around Patch's neck, saying happily, Cherry Tree Farm. Why, I imagine it's the most splendid farm in the whole country. Everyone else was happy about the move too. Perdita added, and best of all, we'll be miles away from that evil, ugly monster. Perdita was talking about Cruella de Vil, the woman who had once kidnapped the puppies. Cruella still loved spots. In a nearby art gallery, she was staring at a painting of a single spot. Where is the artist? I simply must meet him, Cruella demanded. She hoped spotted art would make her forget about spotted fur. I am Lars, the artist announced, and I'm an undiscovered genius. The next morning, Patch was still asleep when the moving van arrived to take everyone to the country. He quickly woke up as he heard Roger call, All right, everyone into the truck. Racing to the window, Patch saw his brothers and sisters jumping into the truck. Pongo had already lost count. Right, anyone not here speak up, he said with a laugh. Pongo didn't notice that Patch was missing. The pup tried to open the window, but it was stuck. Frantically, Patch cried, Wait for me! But he was too late. They didn't even miss me. Patch sighed as the moving van rumbled down the road without him. Suddenly, Patch spotted the K9 Crunchies truck stop near his house. The puppy finally managed to open the window and squeeze out. He hopped onto the truck and took off for the Thunderbolt auditions. After Patch arrived at the audition, the TV producer announced, Line up your dogs. We need to hear their best heroic bark. But when it was Patch's turn, all that came out was a tiny bark. Say, who sat on the squeaky toy? Joked Thunderbolt. Everybody laughed. Poor Patch had lost his chance to be on the show. Later, Thunderbolt was in his trailer when Little Lightning rushed in with terrible news. In their next show, Thunderbolt was going to die. Thunderbolt was stunned. What would he do now? Wait a minute. What if I went out and did something heroic in the real world? Thunderbolt said. The producer would see that Thunderbolt was a true hero. So Thunderbolt left his trailer in search for a real adventure, but he didn't know how to find it. Patch spotted his hero and caught up with him. I'm your biggest fan. I know everything about every episode by heart, Patch told him. Eventually, Thunderbolt decided Patch just might be able to help him find an adventure. But Thunderbolt didn't tell Patch that he'd never been a real hero before. They walked through the park. There, Thunderbolt mistook a peaceful horse and carriage for a runaway stagecoach. Patch remembered, this is just like in episode 37. So Thunderbolt jumped into action to save the people. Sadly, he wasn't good at real-life adventures. He frightened the horse, and the people fell into the pond. None of their other adventures turned out any better. Back on the set, the producer found out that Thunderbolt wasn't there. What do you mean he's missing? He screamed. How can you shoot a show without a star? Little Lightning secretly slipped the producer a photo. The producer declared, This is mega fantabulous. We'll rewrite this episode to star Little Lightning. The Little Lightning Adventure Hour has a nice ring, doesn't it? The jealous Lightning laughed to himself. Meanwhile, Lars had tried to create spotted art for Cruella DeVille, but nothing pleased her. Then Cruella had an idea. Surely the spotted fur of Dalmatian puppies would inspire Lars. So the next morning, she hurried to Roger and Anita's old home, only to discover that they had moved. How unspeakably rude! She ranted. Cruella had no idea where to find them, until she saw a photo of Patch at the Thunderbolt audition in the newspaper. Cruella was able to read the address on Patch's tag. It wasn't long before Roger saw the same photo of Patch. Stunned, he exclaimed, What? Patch in London? This is all my fault. If only I hadn't lost count. Pongo fretted. The important thing now is that we find him before Cruella DeVille does, Perdita said, as they jumped into the car with Roger and Anita. Soon they were speeding back to London. Unfortunately, Perdita's worst fears were about to come true. Cruella had bailed Jasper and Horace Baden out of jail. She wanted them to help her snatch the puppies. Again. Last time they had failed horribly. It's time to finish the job, she declared. We always get the worst end of it with her, moaned Horace. Jasper disguised himself as a woman as part of Cruella's plan. When the Canine Crunchies truck pulled up, the driver asked him, Something I could do for a pretty young lady like yourself? Of course you can, Jasper answered sweetly. You can just give me this truck, he yelled as he pulled the startled driver out of his truck. Then Jasper and Horace drove to the cherry tree farm. They easily lured all the puppies into the truck. But before the bandits could get away, Nanny raced toward them. Let those puppies go right now or I'm going to knock the stupid out of both of you, she cried, waving a heavy frying pan. Racing around the farm, Horace and Jasper were finally able to grab Nanny, tie her up, and lower her down into a well. What ought to hold you right proper, Jasper declared. Then the Baddens hurried off to deliver the puppies to Cruella. Cruella was pleased and brought the puppies to Lars' loft, which was in a warehouse. Lars fell in love with the puppies. Aren't you just a sweetie? He cooed to one of the pups. Lars asked eagerly, You mean for me to do a painting of them, don't you? No, Cruella announced. I want you to used their coats as canvases. Horrified, Lars refused. Cruella snapped. If I can't have a masterpiece, at least I'll finally have a fabulous Dalmatian coat. Lars fainted at the thought. Yeah, that's Cruella. Not long after, Thunderbolt and Patch heard barking. Dogs around the city were trying to tell something. Sounds like a kidnapping. Being held in a warehouse. A devil woman. 101 Dalmatians. Thunderbolt translated. Patch panicked. That is my family! Cruella must have them again. Thunderbolt agreed to help them. He barked a message to the barking chain. Then he and Patch set off to save the puppies. Back in the trailer, Little Lightning heard the barking. He found out that Thunderbolt was going to try to save the puppies. What if Blunderbolt gets lucky and succeeds? Lightning muttered. If Thunderbolt became a hero, Lightning would never be a star. He had to stop them. Thunderbolt and Patch made their way to the warehouse where Lars lived. Lightning was waiting for him. Lightning, what are you doing here? Thunderbolt asked, surprised. Thought you might need a bit of help. Lightning fibbed. Thunderbolt jumped onto a fire escape and climbed to the roof. Patch and Lightning followed. From the roof, Thunderbolt and Patch leaped through a skylight and down into Lars's loft. The other puppies were amazed. It's Patch, and he brought Thunderbolt, exclaimed Lucky. But then Cruella knocked out Thunderbolt. She picked up Patch. If it wasn't for you, I'd never have found your brothers and sisters. And now I have you all. She laughed wickedly. When Thunderbolt woke up, he was locked in a cage with Patch. Then Thunderbolt saw his trusty sidekick outside the cage. Lightning, little buddy, the big dog whispered. I am not your little buddy, Lightning sneered, and you are no wonder dog. Patch didn't understand. Thunderbolt was a real hero. Lightning explained. He was lying to you all day, kid. He was just trying to get his name in the paper and save his job. Patch was confused. You lied to me? He asked. Thunderbolt admitted. I put on an act. It's what I do. Then Thunderbolt turned away ashamed. I'm sorry, all right? I'm not a real wonder dog. I just acted like one, once. Patch didn't know what to do now. Patch admitted sadly to all the puppies. I am just one of 101. I'm sorry, this is all my fault. Then Patch remembered a TV episode when Thunderbolt got out of a cage just like the one they were in. Patch sprang into action and opened the latch. He quickly freed his brothers and sisters. Okay, you guys, come on. Stick together and be quiet, Patch warned. Thunderbolt was too embarrassed to follow. Patch couldn't wait. Just in time, he led his brothers and sisters out of the loft. When Cruella discovered that the pups had disappeared, she was furious. You let them escape? She yelled at Horace and Jasper. Cruella rushed for the door. The mutts must already be downstairs. On the street, Patch spotted an empty double-decker bus whose driver had gotten off to buy a newspaper. Patch sneaked the puppies on board. Come on, we're gonna hitch a ride, Patch urged. The puppies accidentally knocked the bus into the gear. The bus rolled away down the hill. There they are, Cruella screamed. Get them! Cruella jumped into the Canine Crunchies truck with Horace and Jasper. The runaway bus roared right through the middle of London. Brave little Patch did his best to steer the bus as Cruella and the Baddens came closer and closer. Meanwhile, Little Lightning was ready to film his first big scene. The producer said, Okay, quiet on the set. Action! Just then, the Dalmatians' bus smashed through the set. Wholesome Tommy jumped away, but lightning ended up plastered to the front of the bus, holding on for dear life. Patch finally managed to stop the bus before it crashed in an alley. Lightning promptly fainted. Then, Patch directed his brothers and sisters to the open windows of a building. You go ahead. I'll hold them off. Somehow, he said as Cruella, Horace, and Jasper closed in. But little Patch was no match for Cruella and the Bowdens. No one could save Patch now, except Thunderbolt! Patch was amazed. Thunderbolt winked. Come on, I always arrived just in the nick of time. Cruella grabbed a tire iron from Jasper and swung it at Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt fell down. Lightning raced over. Do not mourn me when I am gone. Goodbye, old friend, Thunderbolt whispered dramatically. Thinking fast, Patch released the brake on the bus. It rolled down the alley, and at the last minute, Thunderbolt jumped aside. He wasn't dead. He had been acting. But the runaway bus forced the villains to jump into a river. The police soon arrived with Nanny. There they are! Those are the ones! Nanny shouted. Horace and Jasper pointed at Cruella and cried, She made us do it! The police hauled them all away. Roger, Anita, Pongo, and Perdita were happily reunited with Patch and the other puppies. We missed you very much, Patch, Pongo declared. Then Pongo thanked Thunderbolt. Patch was amazed when Thunderbolt said, No, it was your son, Patch. He looked at the pup and said, You are a real, one-of-a-kind wonder dog. Pongo added proudly, And you always were, son. Thunderbolt went back to being a TV star, but now he had a new junior deputy, Patch. They continued to save people, with help from all the other Dalmatian puppies. And once Patch finally realized he was definitely a one-of-a-kind dog, he no longer barked like a squeaky toy. The end. So that is it for today, everyone. We really hope you all enjoyed it, and we will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Pick out your favorite page.
Yeah.
Cruella. You gotta pick out your favorite page and your favorite character. Lately, she hasn't been picking out her favorite character, but she picks out her favorite word in the book, which is something. That's a great choice. Who's your favorite character?
Hey.
Cruella! Wonderful choice. Ciao!
Hey.
Cruella.